Not quite yet. Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hailey and I are hiding behind this placard tonight because we have an announcement to make. Welcome to the 10th hour of 2022, a Second Chance 12-hour fundraising event to help A Second Chance bring awareness and advocate for the transplant community and other life-threatening illnesses. This event runs until 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and is bringing awareness of the programs that A Second Chance has had the honor of working with in the past, that is also doing great work in the community. If you would like to donate, you can do so by going to www.ndchance.net/donate. And that link is running through the banners that are going across your screen now. And it's also in the comments to the broadcast, the Facebook version of the broadcast. Or if you wish to donate by check, you can make it out to Philip Jones Jr., my good buddy. You can mail it to Philip Jones at 11009 Atkinson Avenue, Inglewood, California, 90303. That's Philip Jones, 11000 Atkinson Avenue, Inglewood, California, 90303. Funding is critical as we don't charge for any of our assistance. So please join us this hour number 10 as we have a conversation with our good friend, Hailey Steimel. All right, there she is. Welcome, 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 everybody. Tonight, our guest is Hailey Steimel. Did I pronounce that right, Hailey? Did I get the half right?
Steimel, yeah.
Okay. She is a heart transplant patient, an author, and an organ donation advocate. What a story this is, folks. Put your seatbelts on. Hailey was born with a congenital heart defect and has had an open heart surgery at the age of 1. She lived a normal childhood, much like her twin sister. Her twin sister was born with a hole in her heart, but it closed up. She lived a normal life until she was approximately the age of 16, when she was told that kids with her heart condition that had a procedure she had at a year old would now have to have a heart transplant. Her heart started to fail in the summer of 2013, and she was listed for a heart transplant on August 19th, 2013. She actually coded at one point and had a right ventricular assist device, that's abbreviated capital RVAD, placed. She was in the hospital for 2 months, and this is not the first time that Hailey's had a long hospitalization, before she was able to go home. Hailey waited 2 months at home and finally got the call on February 13th. Her heart was placed on Valentine's Day 2014, on Valentine's Day, a heart transplant, also known as National Donor Day. She recently celebrated her 8th transplant anniversary, and I think she's due pretty soon for number 9.
Yep.
Today, as an advocate, she is spreading awareness about congenital heart defects and organ donation. She graduated high school in 2015 with her original class, and that took some doing. We're going to talk about that. She also graduated from Upper Iowa University with a communications degree in 2020. She is the co-author of a book called Because of Organ Donation. Let me use your, all right, Brenda, here's the book, okay? And she also wrote a children's book called A Heart on Valentine's Day, which is strangely close to being biographical. She hopes her degree will help her get a career in something to do with organ donation. Hey, employers out there, why haven't we hired Hailey? She'd be a good person. She hopes her degree will help her get a career in something to do with organ donation, please give a warm welcome to my new friend, Hailey Steimel. Hailey, how are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, my friend, doing well. Let's talk. Well, first of all, did I get everything correctly in the introduction?
Yes.
All right. Please tell us a little bit about where you grew up, your education, and your family. I understand you have two sisters, an older sister, Hannah, and a twin sister, Hope. A lot of H girls in that family.
Yes. Before I get started, I just wanted to say thanks for having me and thank you everyone who's watching this. So I grew up in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and I went to school at Prairie my whole life. And like you were saying, I have an older sister, Hannah, and then my twin sister, Hope, and my mom and dad, Bridget and Mike. And then I have 4 pets, 3 dogs and 1 cat, and their names are Lucy, Molly, Millie, and Jack.
Oh, wow. Big family. Lots of people saying hello out there, Hailey.
Hi.
It's my well, what is your date of birth, Hailey? Let's try to get that established
Well,
first.
I was born 9/9/1996, so September 9th, and there's a lot of 9s in there.
Okay. It's my understanding that you were born prematurely at 34 weeks. Is that correct?
Yes.
And at that time, you had a congenital heart defect referred to as transposition of the great arteries, where the aorta and the pulmonary arteries are actually reversed. Is that also correct?
Yes.
All right. I have a note. You had a procedure when you were only 3 days old to keep you alive. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's called the Raskin procedure, and I wrote some notes down so I wouldn't forget. So that procedure was actually done in a cath lab, and it basically makes the hole in the heart larger in order to mix my blood and get oxygenated blood to live.
Okay. You told us you have a twin sister, Hope. She was born with a hole in her heart also, but that closed up, right?
Yeah, so she would visit the pediatric cardiologist till she was, I think, 11, and just to make sure nothing went wrong, and her hole is closed and she never needed any surgeries or procedures.
Now, lucky for her.
Yeah.
I understand that you had an open heart surgery at the age of 1. What kind of heart defect are we talking about? And tell us a little bit about the surgery.
So at a year old, I had the mustard procedure, and usually they do the procedure that's called the switch, that would switch them back around. But my pulmonary artery was too narrow to actually do the switch. And so that's why at the age of 16, I was told that kids with the procedure I had, the mustard procedure, would need a transplant someday.
Okay. I understand that you were pretty much leading a normal childhood like your twin sister up until the fall of 2012 at the age of 16, and then you contracted a respiratory infection that lasted a couple of weeks, and you just couldn't seem to shake it and you didn't seem to feel better. Can you tell us a little bit about what that was like?
Yeah, so in October, I got sick with a respiratory illness and I wasn't getting better. And I think I went to like a local doctor's office and they were telling me like, oh, it's just allergies, or oh, you're allergic to your pets. But obviously that's not the case because I had animals my whole life and I wasn't getting better. So maybe about the 4th doctor visit, we went somewhere else and they told me they wanted to get a chest x-ray of my heart. And so then we went and got that done, and they called my mom when we were coming home and said that I needed to go to the University of Iowa because my heart was in like acute heart failure, I think. So then we rushed down to the University of Iowa, and that was the first time I ever had to stay in a hospital that I remember. So that was pretty scary.
Okay. Tell us, what did they do for you while you were at the University of Iowa Children's Hospital?
So they did some echoes on my heart, and they gave me some medication just to help with the acute heart failure and just to help me get better with the respiratory illness. I just stayed for 2 days in the hospital. It was over the weekend, and by Sunday, I was feeling a lot better, and that's actually when I had my last echo, and when one of the doctors told me that kids with my heart defect are now growing up and needing to have a transplant in their teens, 20s, 30s. It just depends. So that was very shocking because no one ever told me that someday I would need a transplant. And that day came sooner than what I thought it would.
I saw a TikTok. You know, your Uncle Jim's on TikTok. I saw one of your TikToks where you were talking about your reaction to this. And what I saw you doing is you were shaking your head no, like you couldn't believe it. This couldn't be happening to me at the age of 16, correct? So
Yeah.
how did that make you feel?
I think I started crying because, I mean, I only knew the myths of organ donation. I thought it was some long list and I would just be put at the bottom. And I thought so many people died waiting. And I also thought I was too young to need a transplant, that it doesn't happen to kids. But I also knew my dad had a sister that actually passed away at the age of 17 in a car accident. And this was in the 70s, I believe. And so no one really heard of organ donation, but she actually donated her organs. So that's all I really knew about organ donation. But my dad's side of the family never really talked much about it, but I knew that had happened. So that's the only thing I really ever heard about for organ donation before.
Okay. And just for perspective, what year in school were you in when the doctor made these remarks?
I was a sophomore.
In high school.
Yep.
Okay. It's my understanding that your heart actually began to fail in the summer of 2013. Can you tell us a little bit about the events that led up to your finding out about this?
So after I was sent home, I got better and I was okay during like the winter months. But then once the heat started coming in the summer, things started getting way worse. And I had edema, some shortness of breath. I was just tired and I didn't really want to do anything just because I was so tired. And that's when my Make-A-Wish took place too in the summer of 2013. And
Okay. It's okay. Go ahead, hon.
and actually, I always thought Make-A-Wish was for terminal illnesses. So when they told me that I should sign up and see if I get approved for it, that's when I got really scared because I was just thinking, are you telling me that I'm not gonna make it or that I'm super sick? But then I also learned that Make-A-Wish is not just for terminal illnesses.
Okay. And I promise you, Hailey, we're going to talk about Make-A-Wish and all your travels. Okay. I won't forget about that.
Okay.
Okay. I have a note on August 13th, 2013. You and your family met with the transplant team at the University of Iowa. You were admitted to do some testing to see if you were a suitable transplant candidate. I understand this took about 2 weeks.
So I was, admitted on August 19th, 2013, but I was actually like just supposed to go for them to tell me about the process of pediatric heart transplants. But they could just tell by looking at me that I needed to be admitted to actually wait for a transplant. But yeah, it took, I would say, about 2 weeks to be approved because you have to go through all the testing to see if you would be a good candidate for a transplant.
Okay. I am told that right before the time that you were supposed to be discharged, you actually coded
Yeah,
and you
so
had a right ventricular assist device, RVAD, placed. Can
mhm.
you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so after I got approved for a transplant, I know I had a PIC line with some heart medication going through it 24 hours a day, but that wasn't enough apparently because one day I woke up and I just felt sick and I thought I was going to throw up, but then I actually coded, and when I woke up from that, they knew something more needed to be done and that I wouldn't be going home, which it actually was a good thing that I coded at the hospital because if we would have went home, who knows what would have happened. But that's when they're like, "Okay, you're gonna have to stay here longer and we're gonna figure something else out." And that's when they brought up the RVAD. And usually people get LVADs, but because it was my right side of the heart that was failing, they need to do the RVAD. And that was done September 5th. And that was pretty scary knowing that I would need open heart surgery, and I haven't had that done since I was a baby.
Okay. Um, in fact, I have read that you were the first pediatric patient to have that device placed on the right side of your heart. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, that's what they told me. So I guess I was like the guinea pig. So I was like, oh, great. Like, I'm the first one. So hopefully this goes well so other kids can have the RVAD if they need it in the future. But now
Okay.
kids are actually that get the RVAD are now being able to go home in like 2 weeks. It took 2 months for me to go home because, they had to be extra careful since I was the first kid with it.
Yeah, yeah. And I have your release date as November 4th, 2013.
Yes.
So you were in the hospital from August 13th to November 4th, 2013. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay. What types of things did you do, Hailey, to try and promote your need for a heart transplant? I have several social media platforms that apparently you appeared on.
Yeah, so actually I didn't want to say anything to anyone just because I didn't want to scare anyone. But Hope and my aunt and my mom were like, "Well, you probably should make a Facebook page." And my sister came up with the name Hope for Hailey's Heart because her name's Hope. And so that just worked great. And like I said, I didn't want to really tell anyone because I didn't want anyone to be scared. And I actually didn't look at my phone for about 2 weeks in the beginning when I was first admitted, just because I didn't really think about it because of everything going on. And when I did look at my phone, there were so many messages about, "Hailey, why didn't you tell us this?" or "What is going on?" because people were starting to see it on my Facebook, and Hope was also in school. So people would ask her, "Well, where's Hailey at?" And then she would tell them. And I think it was a great idea to start a Hope for Hailey's Heart page because then we could get the information out in one location so people wouldn't be texting and calling all the time to ask for updates. That way someone could just go to one location and see an update. But also, other things that got the word out about donation was I went to a big school, and so when people found out about that, people were very supportive of it. And also the news got a hold of my story and wanted to do interviews with my family. So that's kind of how the message of me needing a transplant and organ donation got out to at least the state of Iowa.
Okay. I want people to know Hope for Hailey's Heart is still on Facebook. The links to that page are in the comments to the Facebook broadcast. Also, she's on Instagram, Hailey Steimel 2014 and Heart Transplant 2014 and
Yeah.
Heart Hailey 2014. And they're all still active accounts. And your Uncle Jim noticed her on Tik Toc. I didn't realize before the broadcast, Hailey, did you know you and I are already friends on Tik Toc before all this started? At Heart Transplant Survivor on Tik Toc. So I didn't realize that we had a connection already before, the broadcast. So lots and lots of places to get good information on Hailey. All of the links to this are in the comments to the broadcast, and the information is going across your stream in the banners as we speak. Okay, this morning I had some lady whose name was Bridget, I think that's how you pronounce it, Bridget, contact me about you, and I was trying to figure out who she was because all the girls in your family, the daughters, have H names. I noticed that, Hailey, Hope, and then there's this Bridget person. It took me a while, I'm a little slow sometimes. It took me a while to realize this is your mom, correct?
Yes.
And you and your mom are starting a podcast. In fact, I think I've seen that you've already done a couple of podcasts called Hope for Hailey's Heart. HOPE, the number 4, Hailey's Heart on Spotify. And what's that other program? I know you're on 2 podcast sites. That's what I remember.
Yes, I have it on my notes somewhere.
Uh-oh. But at any rate, the links to that are also in the comments to the broadcast. So if you're interested in checking out Hailey and her mom, please do that. And Hailey was telling me tonight that she'd like me to come on. I want to make an announcement to you and your mother. Anytime that you want me or you need me, I will make myself available. I'm more than happy to come on. I will send you notes about my particular story. If you need anything like how do I do promos or how do I send emails, how is it that you handle things, Jim? I'm happy to share all of that. I want your podcast to be a success.
Oh, thank you. But
yeah,
you're welcome. It was Spotify, and then Apple Podcast is on, and Anchor.
So Anchor, that was the one I was trying to think of.
There's so many that it gets confusing.
Must keep you guys pretty busy.
Yeah.
I'm on Anchor myself, and therefore you end up on Spotify automatically. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's my understanding, Hailey, that after you were home, you had to wait a couple of months before you got the call. That's the way us kidney people refer to it, all caps. The call on February 13th, 2014, that they had a heart that was available for you. Can you tell us how you got notice of this and how you and your family felt?
Yeah, so I actually just woke up from a nap, and because dinner was ready, and it was kind of like a Thanksgiving dinner because I just told my mom, I don't know why, but I'm craving all these Thanksgiving foods. So she decided to make that. And I just got up and I was sitting on the couch, just waiting for the food to get done. And my mom gets a call, and I could hear her voice that says, "Are you kidding me?" And then my dad's face, I could just tell by his face that it probably was the call about a heart. And when they got off the phone, I said, "Is it the call?" And they were like, "Yeah." And so I was very excited and calling everyone I knew, and my sister Hope was calling everyone too. And some people thought I was joking, and they were like, "Are you serious? Like, this isn't a joke." And I was like, "I wouldn't joke about this." And so everyone was so excited, and we were already packed because, as you know, they tell you to pack. And so they were like, "Don't rush to get here, take your time, be careful driving." And that's when we got in the car. And then I remembered while we were driving what had to have happened. And so then that made me sad, because even though I was celebrating and everyone was so happy, that I knew that there was a family out there that just lost their loved one.
Okay. And I understand this is from the University of Iowa, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And were there any kind of preparations that you had to make before the transplant took place?
I know they gave me my first round of the anti-rejection meds, and I couldn't eat. So that's another thing they told me while I was at my house after we got the call, that, "Oh, and you don't eat anything else if you have." So then I didn't get to eat, but that's okay. And then I don't really know what else I needed to prepare for. I think just kind of getting into the hospital gown and getting hooked up to IVs and stuff like that, and just to be ready for when the heart would come. And I actually was supposed to go in at 1 a.m., but then I actually didn't go until 1 p.m. the next day. So it took a little bit, but I was kind of happy it took a little longer just to prepare myself mentally, because it's a big surgery.
Right, right. And just how cool this date really is. Your heart transplant took place on Valentine's Day and National Donor Day of 2014. It's my understanding the surgery lasted approximately 12 hours. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's a long surgery. Recovery began in the pediatric intensive care unit. For the first 24 hours, everything went pretty much okay?
Yes.
All right. There was some problem with your blood pressure. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened?
So basically, I believed it just started getting all wacky and dropping and stuff. And that's when they had to bring someone in, and they told us it was a lung infection, a hospital-borne lung infection. So they're not really sure what caused it. But I was sick, really sick for like 2 weeks, and put on steroids, and basically kind of in almost like induced coma, I guess. So that way I was just laying still, and they were just figuring out how to beat this infection. And I don't remember a lot about it. I just know that I was super sick, and they told me that the only reason you probably survived this was because of your new strong heart, because if that infection would have came with my old heart, I probably wouldn't make it. And also, I survived because of the amazing nurses and doctors.
Okay. Yeah, and my friend Hailey's understating a little bit. She nearly passed away from this hospital-acquired infection. and she was actually on a ventilator until February 26th. Is that correct?
Yes.
And this is why the heart donation saved your life more than once.
Yeah, and they were kind of shocked too because after such a big surgery, you know, your immune system's already down and your body's already trying to accept this new organ since it is such a big surgery. But yeah, I guess I did almost pass away, but I try not to think of that too much because I'm here living, and so I don't want to get myself down.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, sometimes we'll talk about it every once in a while, and my parents or my sisters would tell me some of the things going on while that infection was happening, and it makes me just sad because, you know, throughout the whole process of waiting for the transplant, even though I needed to have an RVAD and stuff, I was pretty healthy. I mean, I know I was kind of like the guinea pig, but even the nurses and stuff were like, even though you have to be on the PICU right now because the RVAD, you're kind of like the guinea pig to us. You are really healthy with this and you probably could go home with it, but they didn't want anything to go wrong with the RVAD. But I was pretty good throughout the whole waiting for a transplant. And all of a sudden, I got really sick and almost passed away. And even the nurses were telling me some stories about it. And I kind of joke with them and tell them, well, I had to make you do some work for me since I was such an easy patient before the transplant.
Okay. It's my understanding that a couple of weeks after transplant, you were moved to a regular room and you weren't discharged until March 14th of 2014, almost a full month after your heart transplant, right?
Yes.
Wow. And I have a note that I've got the banner wrong here, but I have a note that you missed almost all of your junior year.
Yes. So I did some online classes that the school provided. So that way I wouldn't be too behind and that I could graduate with my class.
Your classmates that you had since kindergarten, your
Mhm.
sister. So you
Yes.
had to work very hard to do that.
Yeah, I did. But it all worked out in the end just because I was like, I don't want to have to not graduate with my classmates.
Didn't want to miss prom either, right?
Nope. So actually, when I got home from the hospital after transplant, prom was a couple weeks away, and the doctors and stuff told me I would be fine to go, and it felt good. So I said, well, might as well go and show everyone that organ donation works. And I think a lot of people were shocked that I was at the school. I even heard someone say, "Is that Hailey Steimel?" And they looked like shocked that I would even be there because everyone knew that I had just gotten a transplant. And I think they thought I probably should still be in the hospital since it was a big surgery. But I did learn that many people who get a transplant are out of the hospital in about 2 weeks, and that I probably would have been out in 2 weeks if I didn't have the hospital-borne infection.
Okay. It's my understanding that after high school you went to Upper Iowa University. Can you
First,
tell us a little bit
went
about college?
first I went to Kirkwood Community College, and that's right by Prairie. And I already knew I was gonna go there from the beginning because it's close to my home, and if there was any issues with my medical stuff, I would at least be at home. And so it's a community college, so it's a lot cheaper, and I knew it was a good school, so I figured why not? And I didn't really know what I wanted to do at that point. And then I went to Upper Iowa University, but I did online classes because I didn't want to move too far away because I was kind of scared still that, all my medical stuff is kind of scary to move out and stuff since it was only a couple years that I'd had my new heart. So I just always liked staying close to home just in case something did happen.
Okay. Let's talk about some of your traveling experiences. We mentioned before that you had traveled with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I think you said it was to Hawaii. Can you
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that?
So actually, we got some birthday tickets to see Taylor Swift because she's my favorite artist. And then I think a week or two later, we went to Hawaii with Make-A-Wish. So even though my heart was failing, that was still a great summer because we saw Taylor Swift, and then I was going to Hawaii with my family. But I was actually really sick in Hawaii. I think the plane ride didn't help because I got a lot of edema after that. But I didn't really let it slow me down in Hawaii. I still went to the beach and swam with dolphins and did everything that I wanted to do. And that's when we got home. It was a couple weeks after that we actually had that appointment set up to talk about a heart transplant. But that's when they told me, okay, you're going to have to be admitted today because you look so sick. So even though I was sick during my Make-A-Wish trip, I didn't let it stop me.
Right. I understand you also went to Spain.
Oh, no, it was Hawaii, just Hawaii.
Just Hawaii. Okay, bad Uncle Jim. You were awarded the Circle of Inspiration Award. Can you talk to us about that?
So that was through Make-A-Wish, and they awarded me that because of the whole story of knee transplant and organ donation and spreading awareness about it. Because, I mean, I do sometimes hear stories still about people in Iowa who need a transplant, but you don't really hear too much stories about organ donation. But I think because I was in high school and I wasn't a little kid or like a full grown adult yet, that it was important to me and important to my school to share that anyone at any age could need a transplant, not just older people. And that was important for me to spread awareness about pediatric organ donation because I still think sometimes people are confused on, well, why did you need a transplant? You were a kid and it's only older people that need it that were smokers or didn't take care of their bodies or whatever, but that's not true at all. Anyone can need a transplant even if they never smoked or they ate healthy their whole life.
Okay. Hi to my friend Wendy. We're doing Wendy's repeat broadcast on Facebook tomorrow night.
Oh.
So, little shout out to my friend and let people know that Wendy's going to be back, baby. So, be patient. You also threw out the first pitch at a Colonel's baseball game on Donate Life Night.
Yes. So I think that's the first time they ever had a Donate Life Night. And that was pretty cool. I was nervous that I wouldn't be strong enough to really throw the ball that far, but I think I did a pretty good job.
All right. And the Colonels, that's a nearby minor league team, correct?
Yeah, it's kind of like a local team, I guess. I don't know much about baseball and stuff.
All right. I understand that you've recently celebrated your 8-year heart transplant anniversary, soon to celebrate your 9th in February. Is that right?
Yes. It just
Wow.
seems crazy that it will be 9 years because, I mean, then after 9, it will be 10. And that just seems crazy to me that it's been that long.
Wow. Wow. I understand that you have been in touch with your donor family. You mailed your first letter August 14th of 2014, and you met with them August 13th of 2017. Can you please tell us what that was like?
So for mailing the first letter, in Iowa at least, they say to wait 6 months before you send a letter to say thank you. And I sent it, and I believe I got a letter back 3 years later about us exchanging like email and phone numbers, and then we decided to meet up, and we both kind of knew about each other just because of the media and how it was a local teen in Iowa received a heart on Valentine's Day, and not too many people get a heart on Valentine's Day. And so we kind of both knew about each other, but when we first met, I was so nervous just because you typically don't meet people because of a connection through organ donation. So I was just super nervous that day, and I'm sure everyone was. But it was just really nice to meet them, and we still stay in contact with each other. I just saw them in November, and I'm sure we'll meet up again soon. And I think they are watching this right now, so hi. And thanks for watching.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about some of your advocacy work, because I know that advocacy work and organ donation and heart transplant are big favorites of yours. I know you did some fundraising for cleaning up cancer. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so actually that was kind of like a carnival too, that they had the fundraiser, and I was in a dunk tank, and it was a super cool day out. So actually someone after a while stepped in to take my place because they could tell I was freezing. And it was super fun. I would love to do that again and be in a dunk tank, but I would rather do it when it's actually nice out and not cold.
Okay. Ouch. I understand that you were a grand marshal in a local parade. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so Fairfax, Iowa is actually, I guess, where I grew up. And so I was actually the first woman in the parade to be the grand marshal because it was always men. So I guess I made history there in Fairfax. But I basically rode around in a cool convertible and just waved to everyone in the parade. So that was a pretty easy day, just having to sit there and wave to people.
Pretty awesome. You also spoke at the hospitals and driver ed classes. Is that something that you've done?
Yeah, I spoke in there and some other events. I also at the American Heart Association events. I They share my stories sometimes, and my mom actually spoke since when I was like the person for that year. My mom spoke since I was still kind of young and nervous, but it was to share about my heart defect and about my donation to my connection with organ donation. But yeah, I feel like I always just love to volunteer at anywhere they need me to talk about organ donation.
Okay. Would that be the American Hearts Go Red event?
Yes, the luncheon.
And I know you speak frequently for the Iowa Donor Network.
Yes. So I actually just spoke the last time at a thing called STEM. It's for young women in science. And I went to a co-college, and it was me and someone else who's a part of the donor network just to talk to the students about organ donation. And I think it was just middle school girls. since it was to support different degrees in science for women. And so that was pretty fun. And I think they did learn a lot about donation and about how a lot of kids, need transplants too.
Okay. And I also understand that you've been with Team Iowa and the Transplant Games of America. Is that correct?
Yes. So
can you tell us a little bit about that?
The Transplant Games of America is kind of like the Olympics for transplant patients. I've been to 3, well, kind of 4, I guess, but New Jersey was canceled because of COVID. But they just had one in San Diego, California that I was a part of. And it's just a bunch of transplant recipients, living donors, donor families that get together to participate in different sporting events and to celebrate and promote organ donation. So you meet a lot of neat people there and hear a lot of amazing stories.
Okay. In addition to being the first heart transplant patient that I've had on my broadcast, you are also one of the first persons to actually go to a rose parade and ride around on the float. Can you tell us about your experiences at the 2018 Rose Parade?
Yeah, so the Rose Bowl Parade, I'm sure people watch it on New Year's Day, and there's a lot of different floats promoting different things, and there's also a float for organ donation with recipients and living donors. They either sit on the actual float or they walk along the side. And Iowa invites usually a recipient or a living donor, and they'll invite a donor family too. And so I was chosen for that year, and that was so fun just to go to California and meet so many people that are connected to organ donation. And also a lot of the volunteers that come to help out on the donor float are actually connected to organ donation too, that are around California that will come every year to help out. And I think the Donate Life float, it's very important in California because they said that it really helped promote organ donation in such a big state. And so I thought that was really cool because obviously, you don't hear about donation unless you usually know someone. But then when you watch the parade and they tell about what the float represents, it really gets you thinking about donation.
Wow. We're not worthy. We're not worthy. As if that all isn't enough. I understand that you have authored or co-authored a couple of books. Let's start with Brenda Cortez. Let's see if I can get this in the frame. That'd help, Jim. Because of organ donation, is that correct?
Yeah, I have it with me too. Yes.
All right.
Chapter 13. So.
Yeah, I have you starting on page 151.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So
25, 26 people in here to share their story about donation. And it's a very good book. So if people who are watching haven't read it yet, please get a copy of it and read it, because I'm not a big reader, but I actually did read the whole book and I loved it.
Okay. And just so people know, the link is streaming across our page now where they can get more information about the book. And the book's available on Amazon. And I left the link to the Amazon bookstore and this book in the comments. Now, I'm also in that book. The last time I interviewed my friend George Franklin, Brenda wrote me and said, you didn't mention that you're in the book. So Brenda, I'm mentioning that your Uncle Jim is in the book too. I'm a couple of chapters back from Hailey. That's okay. So at any rate, it's a great book. Please check it out. Now, you also authored another book, a children's book called A Heart on Valentine's Day.
Yes.
There we go.
There it is in the back.
I love the cover, by the way.
Thanks. I wanted it like hot pink since that's my favorite color. So I was like, let's make it hot pink.
Hot pink.
And then that's me, obviously, holding a heart. And then I was like, can you guys put in like a scar? So I don't know if maybe kind of can see it. But I was like, how about you put in the scar there? So since I actually, the scar.
Right, I have photographs of you with that scar. That's a long scar.
Yes. But
so,
I just wanted to write this because when I was waiting, there wasn't a lot of books for pediatric donation, and my cousins were really little at the time, and they didn't understand what was going on. So I was like, you know what? Someday I'm going to write a children's book about donation. And thank you, Brenda Cortez, for helping me.
Okay. And this is semi-autobiographical, is that correct?
Yes. So it just basically talks about like my story and leading up to the transplant. So, I mean, throughout the story, you see my family.
Wow, look at the pictures and stuff. Beautiful.
Yes. So, and it actually has my pets in the book too, because I wanted to include pictures of them.
There they are.
So, yeah.
The whole family and everybody.
So I wanted to make it as real as possible, just so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And just so the folks know, the information about that book is streaming across our screen now in the banners, in the comments to the Facebook portion of this broadcast, and also the YouTube portion. I shouldn't leave them out. There is a link where you can purchase the book from Amazon, and this would be a very good book for your children to learn more about organ donation. So if you're interested, you can click on those links. It'll take you right to somewhere where you can get the book. And I'm sure you can contact my friend Hailey or her mom, and they would be happy to help you.
Yes. So you can contact me, Amazon, go there, or even Barnes and Noble online has it. So there's quite a different options where you can go and get it. But yeah,
okay.
I like it too because I feel like it's even more than like an organ donation book, since it kind of talks about giving, and about how organ donation is possible because someone gave the gift of life. They're sharing, life with others, and I dedicated the book to my donor and all the
Okay.
people.
That's the young man that donated to you?
Yes.
His family?
Yes. And so I really want to dedicate it to people who are waiting for a transplant still, who've had a transplant, living donors, donor families, and everyone who gave the gift of life.
Wow.
Because without donors and living donors, this wouldn't be possible.
Okay. We're in the home stretch here, Hailey. In closing our conversation tonight, do you have any final statements or remarks that you would like to make to our audience? Did I forget anything? Did I leave anything out that you think is important?
I don't think anything was left out, but I would like to thank everyone who came and watched or who supported me throughout the years. And in closing remarks, I would have to say, I'm assuming everyone who's watching probably has a connection to organ donation in some way. But if you're just seeing this and you don't have a connection to organ donation, I would say consider signing up to be an organ donor and help others out, or a living donor. And I always tell people too that organ donation's very bittersweet, because it's sad that someone had to pass away, but it's also very sweet because they gave the gift of life to someone to live.
Okay. And just so people know, there, at least not with hearts, but in my field with kidneys, you can get by with one kidney. So you as a living donor can donate a kidney to another patient who needs a kidney and still do quite well yourself.
Yes, and that's also very important. And I am actually talking more about living donation, just because there's so many people that need a kidney and there's not enough donors, and it's just so important to talk about living donation too.
Okay. Well, Hailey, what a terrific broadcast. I thank you so very much for coming on and talking to us,
having me.
Raising awareness about organ donation, raising awareness about heart donation, and in particular, you and I have a common interest in pediatric patients that need organ donation transplants, and I greatly appreciate your efforts in that regard. And again, I want to make the offer, if there's anything that I can ever do to help you or your mom, all you have to do is contact me, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Well, that's going to take care of our broadcast for tonight. I'm going to let Hailey go. I have a little update I have to do about a future broadcast coming up tomorrow. And I want to thank you again. What a terrific job you did tonight. I learned so much getting a chance to talk to you.
Thank you.
All right. You have a good night, my friend.
You too.
And I'll be sharing this all over the universe, I promise.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye now. All right. Tomorrow night, Friday night, as you know, I did not schedule a regular broadcast. However, I did save a broadcast for you that has not appeared on Facebook before. It only appeared on YouTube. And so tomorrow night, I'm going to be replaying the Wendy Jeffries Crowder broadcast that will be appearing for the first time on Facebook. And I wanted to call your attention to the fact that Wendy has both a kidney page on Facebook as well as a kidney group on Facebook. And any support that you can give us would be greatly appreciated. And I'm going to be sharing that to all the platforms that I'm on as well. So keep your eye out tomorrow for Wendy's replay. And of course, once I replay it, you can watch it anytime that you wish. So I want to give a very heartfelt thanks, no pun intended, to our good friend Hailey. What a terrific job that she did tonight. As you can tell, she's a very special young lady, groundbreaking, lots of great information, taught us an awful lot, raised a lot of awareness. And so I just want to say thank you again to our friend Hailey. So you all have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow night. Okay, Hailey's issue. This is Hailey and her twin sister. Our friend Hailey, a little more grown up. The day Hailey was transplanted. Some photographs of Hailey advocating for all of us. Back cover of her book that she showed us. Cover from inside her book. Front cover of her book. Notice the scar that she was calling attention to. Some random photographs of Hailey. A promo about her story from the University of Iowa Children's Hospital. A couple more photographs. This particular one is my favorite. So great night with Hailey. There's your Uncle Jim. There's our sponsor. And remember, this is part of the Second Chance Group 12-hour live stream fundraiser. Please give generously to a Second Chance. The links to that are in the comments to the broadcast. All right, that ends our broadcast for tonight. I'll see everybody soon. Thank you for tuning in. And if you missed, be sure you let your friends know that the replay is going to be available. Good night, everybody.